So we'll grow this lesson from last week's lesson on frog legs with a little bit of review. So go ahead with your left leg, and if you can let it down long, and if you need to keep the other knee bent up for comfort in your back, that's fine. And just begin exploring the rolling out and back to neutral. Rolling your leg out and letting it come back to neutral. And just remembering how if you keep rolling your leg out and out, eventually there'll be an invitation for the knee to bend. And with your knee bending, eventually the edge of your foot will come near the floor. So you're just rolling the left leg out, letting the knee bend when that seems like the most natural thing to do. Letting the outside edge of the left foot touch the floor, only if that's easy. Of course, you don't need to push, creating a range of motion or a stretch. And coming back to neutral frequently, just exploring your way up, eventually letting the knee bend more and more, lazily sliding the outside edge of the foot upward towards your pelvis. Letting the knee bend further and further until the knee is really bent as far as it wants to go, and then you can just bring your whole leg upward towards the ceiling. And as always, paying as much attention to how you drop your knee down to the side and slide the foot back downward and bring your leg to neutral. The comings and the goings of the movements. Notice how sometimes there's a tendency to sort of get to, like, maybe what one might consider the goal of the movement, bending the knee up and bringing it towards the ceiling. And then we can kind of check out while we bring it back to neutral, as if there's something less important about how we return to neutral. Isn't it sort of true in life that we have an activity and we're working towards it and we're getting ready and we're going and then it happens, like vacation. I've got vacation coming up and we're there. And do I really linger and enjoy the vacation, or do I let my mind wander to the next thing? Start thinking about and planning the next thing without being there and really resting in the opportunity to relax and enjoy and come to neutral. And at some point, just let your leg long and take a full rest. Just noticing how the left leg feels compared to the right leg. Remembering the image we used last week of the infant, even the toddler, who just naturally has this open pelvis, these open hips. Not just because of the diapers we put on them, but really the shape of their pelvis and hips naturally creates this open type of movement. And then take your time to explore this movement with your right leg. And again, if you need to bend up the opposite leg for comfort in your back, please do so. But just starting very small, just the exploration of rolling it out a little bit and letting it return to neutral. Really feeling into that invitation for the knee to bend. You sort of know it's coming. So do you bend your knee, or does the knee just bend because you're rolling your leg out to the side? Who is the bender of the knee? And continuing to roll the leg, letting the foot, maybe the outside of the foot, just slide on up. Sliding towards the pelvis and coming back down to neutral. And eventually bringing the knee up to the ceiling. And begin to notice what else is happening. So as you do this movement of your right leg, what's happening in your pelvis? What's the little weight shifting? Does your pelvis shift to the right as your leg moves? Can you feel the back of it rolling on the floor a little? And then what else is happening? Is there any sense of movement or following of the movement in your ribs on the side of you? Does the weight shift on your shoulder blades from left to right? Does your head want to roll or turn in any way? And just notice if there is or isn't movement in any of those areas a few times. And then just bring your leg down long and let it rest. Let your whole nervous system rest. Wouldn't it be sweet if, and I think there's actually computer programs like this, where a bell, you can set a bell to go off, every 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And for those of us working, wouldn't it be sweet if that bell would go off and we just take 3 to 5 breaths and just pause before the seriousness of returning to work. Let our systems come into balance. And then do the movement again, the full movement of the left leg. And this time really tuning in to what happens with any weight shifting across the back of your pelvis. Do you notice any movement in your ribs? Does any weight shift across your shoulder blades as you roll your leg up and bend your knee up to the ceiling and back down? And is there any rolling of the head that wants to happen? And you might even just play with a few times purposefully letting your head roll to the same side, to the left, as the left knee comes up and down. And just kind of feeling, does that feel natural and congruent? And you might try rolling your head to the opposite side a few times, wondering, maybe that feels more natural and congruent for my system. And sometimes the mind will come in with its commentaries. I wonder which one's the right way. I wonder if I'm doing it right. And you can just say thank you for your comments. There's no right, no wrong, just the experience, just the noticing. And then just let your legs down long and take a full rest. Again, if letting your legs down long is uncomfortable, then for you, a full rest means letting your knees stay bent. Always listening. And you may just notice the imprint that you're making now into your pad and on the floor. If you were going to have different parts rolling off a balance beam, has anything changed? And then in our new way, please bend up each of your knees one at a time, so you're standing through your feet. In the new frog legs way. And with your left hand, let your whole arm be down on the floor, if it isn't already, and just gently begin to lengthen your left hand and arm towards your left foot, as if you were going to try to touch it, but we're not going to, and so it's just a very gentle movement in that direction. And it might only be a half an inch, maybe it'll be 2 or 3 inches, but just gently that idea of sliding a little bit downward and noticing what happens in your head. Are you able to let your head and neck follow with you? Again, does your head want to roll to the left or to the right as you lengthen your hand towards your feet? Notice what happens in your shoulder blades. Does your left shoulder blade slide with your left arm? And then really feeling what's happening in the ribs. As your left arm slides down and your left shoulder goes towards the left side of your pelvis, your ribs are very likely coming towards each other on the left, while on the right they might be expanding a little bit. So use the image of a slinky or an accordion to just sort of allow that closing of the ribs on the left side and the opening, that sense of lengthening on the right side. And then just let that go on the left. Pause for a moment. Let your right arm down to the floor if it's not already, and just notice for a moment any sensations that are different from the left side to the right side. And then begin that exploration on the right side, starting with a very small movement, almost undetectable. Sliding the right hand downward towards the right foot. Just beginning to feel what happens in the shoulder blade. Which way does your head want to roll? Experiment with that a few times. Nice and slow, no hurries, nowhere to go, no place to be. Only this moment and this moment. And this moment of curiosity and exploration. Different places in the brain. We've sort of been trained that we should know. We should know. First time somebody giggles or laughs at us when we ask a question in school, or the teacher shames us. Sometimes we begin to learn that that place of curiosity isn't always welcome. So here we get to be interested and explore these connections and these movements to free our bodies and our minds. And just a few more times reaching and feeling what happens in the ribs. Do the ribs on the right side shorten a little bit, coming a little closer together, while there's a sense of lengthening, expanding and opening on the left. And then just let it go and rest. And then again, come back to the original frog legs or baby legs movement. Rolling your leg out and bringing it up and play around a little bit. Be playful. Do one leg and then the other leg. But notice if this little extra movement that we did with the hand and the shoulder and the ribs, if that made the whole connection from the leg and the hip and pelvis clearer, that your whole body can let go and participate. You can bring one leg up and then the other. If it feels safe and easy for your low back, you could even play with bringing both legs up together. If you were a baby, then you would bring your feet up over your chest and try to put one in your mouth. You can just have that imagination. You probably did that once. And as you play with and practice these movements, rather than taking 15 minutes for a whole lesson or some of my longer CDs that are 45 minutes, sometimes you can just come home and lie on the floor and just play for a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and your body begins to remember how it let go and responded and connected. But it does take practice. Practice, practice. And just let it all go. Let your legs lie whatever way is comfortable. Feel your connection to the ground. Notice how you might be lying on the balance beam from the exercise we did earlier. Notice how your breath is. When you're ready, just take your time and roll to your side. Come up to sitting and then standing. Walk around a little bit and we'll see what this new experience is like for the whole of you.